Update for Monday. Paul Lindman and Scott Lynn, you didn't get a raise this year, but your boss most likely did. New article from Bloomberg News reporting the U.S. economy's anemic rebound from the worst recession in 6 decades is hurting workers while leaving bosses in pretty good shape. David Lynch wrote the article for Bloomberg, joins us this morning. Put some numbers on us. What's the evidence, David?
Sure. Well, we commissioned an exclusive survey using Census Bureau data, sort of the micro data that doesn't get broken down publicly by the Census Bureau. And between 2007, which was before the crisis, and 2010, the end of 2010, which is the most recent data we have, working class people lost about 4.6% of their median earnings, and professionals, managers, college-educated folks, actually went up almost 2%. So, you know, the well-educated folks at the top of the ladder or rise, or not even the top of the ladder. I mean, this isn't a 1% sort of issue. It's just the boss versus the worker, if you will. The bosses were managing to ride out the storm, and the workers were really taking it in the chops.
And as I recall, it's even worse here in Oregon for white male workers, right?
Yeah, Oregon was among the states. There was from memory, I want to say 8 or so, where median earnings went down around 10%. In some cases, even more than that. And they were the places in some, in many cases you'd not be surprised. The ones that saw the housing bust explode particularly brutally in places like Arizona and Florida, and then the Michigan Rust Belt area with the auto industry. Michigan was down about 17%. These are working class white males. So these are, in political terms, this is really a core constituency. These are the old Reagan Democrats. They're the so-called angry white males of the Republican Revolution in '94. This is the cohort that's been really the bulwark of every Republican White House victory for 2 generations, and it's a constituency that Mitt Romney really needs to make hay with in the fall.
And that's the case here. The struggles of the working class Americans, it is going to have an impact on this presidential election race, is it not?
It already is. You can see it really shaping discussion of things like China, trade policy, immigration reform. The president tries to come back on the auto bailout and say, hey, I saved the auto industry, so you guys on the shop floor ought to be grateful. But Romney's, in his call to get tough on China, declare them a currency manipulator on day one, in the White House, that's a bid for that working class vote, for guys who have seen the factory pick up and move offshore. He's trying to say, I'm on your side.
So each one is taking this message in a different direction, but is either really resonating with the working class?
No, and when you talk to these folks, they from where the average guy sits, he's got a choice of 2 Harvard-educated rich guys, neither one of which really looks like the guy you'd want to go to the ball game with and knock back a few beers. And now this is arguably a more important constituency for Governor Romney, because in 2008, John McCain won this slice of the vote. Non-college educated whites went for McCain 58 to 40. So we know Obama can lose this group and lose it by a big margin and still get reelected. But Romney's got to have this group, and he's got to have them by an even bigger margin than McCain had in 2008. It's early days yet, despite all the clamor here in Washington. A lot of normal people haven't even begun to focus on the presidential race yet. But in the fall, this is a group he's got to have, and he's got to run up a big margin.
And just briefly as we close here, you also make the point in your piece, this is all being reflected, this working class financial stress, in some consumer-oriented companies and what they're doing. Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. There's a company, Family Dollar Stores, which runs a sort of a chain of discount stores that sell just about everything, near as I can tell, and it's all about low prices for them. And over the course since the end of the recession, their shares are up about 26% on the stock market, while the overall market, the S&P 500, is down about 3% over that period. So you can see that folks are increasingly price conscious, and they've migrated to that kind of a store.
David Lynch with Bloomberg News. You can read his stuff at Bloomberg.com. David, thank you very much.
Pleasure.